Incredible 80-year-old woman exposed the truth behind asking for leftovers, and her hidden strength will leave you speechless. Martha Jenkins sat at her kitchen table, a soft glow from the overhead lamp illuminating the chipped surface that had weathered countless family dinners. The laughter of her children echoed in her mind, and echoes of her late husband, Frank, filled the empty spaces. Yet, each tick of the clock intensified the silence that enveloped her home, a stark reminder of the world outside that seemed to have forgotten her. Am I just a relic? She mused, as the shadows danced across the walls, teasing her with memories. When her phone lit up with a message from Alex, her grandson, a glimmer of hope flickered within her. Could this connect them amid the tides of change? Yet, every interaction felt like a thread pulled thin. As Alex struggled to find his footing as an artist, Martha sensed his mounting pressures. Student debt loomed over him, much like the encroaching darkness of her solitude. The leftover night ritual had become a solace, but she feared the world might dismiss her as the old woman weighed down by the past, dragging him into her twilight years. The notion clawed at her chest, the fear of being a burden, of formatting his life with her nostalgia. Could she still teach him about the little things that made life bloom? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The tension in her house grew heavier, a cloak of expectation that Merriam-Webster could scarcely capture. Alex began pulling away with the weight of his crowd's ambitions, and the agitated murmurs from his artist friends seeped into their leftover nights like storm clouds. How can he keep dragging around old baggage? One voice had sneered just last week. Isn't he better off on his own? The bitter sting of those words nearly knocked the breath from Martha as they pierced through the fragile fabric of their bond. For Alex, it was a struggle against the pull of allegiance to the vibrant allure of innovation and the quiet strength of family ties. Inside, he wrestled with pangs of dread. Would stepping away from a teaching signify rejection, or a necessary evolution in his quest for success? Martha observed him, feeling the sharp creases of concern etching deeper into his brow as they sat together. Each meal became heavier with unspoken truths, a tapestry woven with uncertainty, and the bittersweet whispers of what if. As the gallery opening approached, a beacon of creativity awaited him, alongside a darker shadow of fear. Standing beside the thrumming energy of so many, would they see him or her, the elder who cherished the remnants of meals long past? Martha yearned to make her stand, to share with Alex the love that shaped him and the wisdom of resilience. But as the verse of their hearts began to drift, could she bridge the gap? Or would he be swept into the current, leaving her to wade through loneliness once more? The night drew close, the tension palpable as Alex drifted further away, leaving Martha grappling with her frail hope. How could she keep their connection intact, amidst a world that buried meaning in the trivial? The ultimate question remained, would the bond they forged through discarded moments hold strong in the face of harsh judgment, or would the fragile ties seek to break under the pressure of conformity? As she prepared to speak her truth, the myriad thoughts buzzed in her mind, but the worry tugged harder what future awaited them now. Martha sat motionless at the table, her fingers tracing the outline of a bouquet of wilted flowers she had kept long past its prime. For a moment, she immersed herself in the scent of fading petals and noticed a faint resilience in their life cycle. In that moment, inspiration ignited. Unbidden, an idea curled around her heart like a warm blanket. Perhaps it was time to reshape her approach. She needed vitality, not just for herself, but for Alex as well. The bustling colors of the art world seemed a universe away from her dim kitchen. Desperate to connect, she decided to take the first step, showing him that the past could inform the present without suffocating it. The day stretched like a second skin, and within her, the resolve began to crystallize into action. She would invite him into her world, not with the residue of nostalgia, but with vibrant, living lessons of her own. When Alex arrived for their next leftover night, he appeared as if bearing the weight of his decisions in his eyes. He collapsed into the chair opposite her, tense and distracted, the brimming colors of his sketchpad barely visible. The shadows looming over his artistic ambitions echoed off her walls, refracting into her soul. She needed to break the tension that glued them apart. Martha, can I tell you about the gallery? It's scary, he faltered, the entire atmosphere steeped in uncertainty as Alex's anxiety festered. Before you dive in, why don't we cook something together? She proposed, the idea tumbling out of her mouth with a lightness that surprised even her. His eyebrows raised, curiosity breaking through the fog of concern. Martha guided him to the kitchen, choosing as much fresh produce as she could muster. You see, cooking isn't just about the food. It's about creation like art, she explained, peeling an onion, slicing through both the vegetable and the dense air that surrounded them. Each chop resonated, reverberating with a sound that lent a rhythm to the silence. As they mixed spices and diced vegetables, Martha revealed stories buried under layers of personal history, anecdotes of Frank helping her in the kitchen, little victories they celebrated together over the stove. These were anecdotes not tied to a missed past, but to the lessons that sculpted who she was today. Life can be messy, like this too, she said, motioning to the bubbling pot. You throw in everything, and it's up to you to find balance. She looked straight into his eyes, hoping he understood the metaphor that stretched beyond the kitchen. You don't need to choose between me and your future. Use everything, carry the lessons and the love, but forge your own path. Alex listened intently, the tension in his shoulders releasing slowly as understanding crept in. I never thought about it that way, he confessed, uncertainty wavering in his voice. I thought I had to break away entirely. I've carried you with me, not as a weight but as a part of who I am. Just as that bouquet continues to give fragrance to this room, you two can carry our memories forward while still exploring uncharted ground, she added, her voice steady and clear. Gradually, a whisper of resolve crossed Alex's face. He began sharing his own fears about the gallery, fear of dismissal, of not being taken seriously in a world that chased sleek perfection. I don't know if they'll see me, he confessed. What if they only see the old woman as grandson? In that moment, her heart skipped a beat. It was the reflection of her very own fears. The thought of becoming a mere relic niggled at her, yet the flame of acceptance ignited inside her once more. Then challenge that vision. Show them who you are, who we are together. Art expects courage, it's time we both showed it. As the stew simmered, the pulse between them transformed, that connection forged in shared triumphs and tribulations began to reset. They weren't living in opposition to each other, instead, they could thrive together, evolving in their own unique ways while remaining tied by love and shared history. But that night, amidst laughter and seasoning, a thought lingered in the back of Martha's mind. What if the world outside their kitchen was entirely different than they had imagined? What if they were both unprepared for the judgment that awaited? The gallery opening loomed closer, igniting a fire of determination alongside a dread she couldn't entirely shake. Their paths were emerging, yet the journey ahead remained uncertain. She felt it crackling a little further away. Would their newfound understanding hold strong when faced with the formidable art world, or would the complexities unravel the connection they had forged? As the steamy aroma filled the air, she knew one thing for certain: change was coming, and she had to confront it head-on. Martha woke the next morning to a sun-drenched kitchen, the golden light spilling through the window and illuminating the remnants of the stew they had created. She felt a renewed sense of purpose but quickly dampened it with a creeping doubt. In the kitchen, every ingredient had its place, but the chaotic blending of lives left her apprehensive. Would that disorder spill outside, into the gallery where Alex's art awaited judgment? With each passing hour leading up to the art opening, Martha found herself oscillating between support and fear. She did not want to shadow Alex's ambitions, yet she feared becoming irrelevant if their bonds frayed in the face of the outside world. As she prepared for what was sure to be a transformative evening for both of them, the concept of being merely an old woman began gnawing at her confidence. Cloaked in her favorite sweater, she pondered her portfolio images of her past works, pieces that had never left her studio due to their deeply personal nature. Were they still relevant, or had they become relics, just like the wilted flowers she cherished? A painful realization struck her: she had caged her own artistic identity within the walls of memory, and in doing so, risked losing touch with her evolving self. Remembering Alex's earlier fears of being dismissed, she confronted her own mounting concern. What if art was also a field where she could express her own voice anew, not just as a past entity but as a vibrant creator? Perhaps the gallery could be a space for rejuvenation, a canvas for both herself and her grandson. Martha gathered her sketches, hesitant at first but driven by a growing urgency. It felt like stepping into a deep, uncharted water, but this time, she wouldn't tread lightly. She would dive in, revealing not only the elegance she had honed over the years but also the raw, jagged lines of her life that made her unique. When the time came to leave for the gallery, Martha felt layers of fabric wrapped tightly around her metaphorical armor against an onslaught of potential critiques. She gazed at herself in the mirror, recognizing the woman who had fought life as battles, who had laughed, and yes, even wept for the art she loved. Shaking off an initial wave of self-doubt, she compared her own journey with Alex's. They both had voices that deserved to be heard, they simply needed to embrace the fear and convert it into courage. The gallery loomed larger than life outside the car window, its glowing entrance beckoning like a siren call. As they stood outside for a brief moment, contemplating the doorway that bridged their past with future possibilities, Alex, seeming smaller against the imposing edifice, turned to face her with wild determination sparkling in his eyes. "Are you ready?" he asked, the quiver in his voice amplifying the importance of this moment. "More than ready," she replied, though she sensed her heart racing not just for him, but for herself. It was a shared leap into vulnerability. She would be displaying not just his work but her own as well, revealing facets of her life that were often hidden behind patient expressions. As they entered, an acute awareness of the environment flooded over them. The chatter and energy of the crowd enveloped Martha, and she quickly scanned the walls, focusing on the artwork that was about to be unveiled to the world, a world that was both intimidating and invigorating. With each passing second, the reality struck her: this was a critical moment. Martha knew she had to speak not only for Alex but for herself as well. Would they resonate with their truths, or would the art world serve as a cold reminder that moments of personal history can be misinterpreted and overlooked? Suddenly, the throbbing pulse of the gallery seemed to synchronize with her own heartbeat, fueling her resolve. She had to be brave, whatever the outcome. As Alex stepped forward to greet the first guests, Martha swallowed hard, feeling the weight of collective uncertainty pressing upon her. Would her decision to embrace her identity through art be met with warmth or judgment? Then, as she moved to follow him, a figure in the crowd caught her eye. That familiar presence sent a jolt through her, awakening an undeniable tension within. It was someone from her past, someone she hadn't expected to see. Martha felt her breath hitch. The moment of truth for every part of her journey was about to unfold in a way she had never anticipated. The time had come to face not just the gallery, but the ghost that lingered among the canvases. Would this unexpected encounter shatter her resolve or provide the very strength she needed to move forward? Martha's gaze narrowed on the figure, a swirl of emotions tightening in her chest. The familiar silhouette morphed into an embodiment of her history, each memory colliding with her present conviction. It was Eleanor, an artist once revered in their circles, now shrouded by time in a bitter fall from grace. Martha remembered whispered conversations and scrutinizing glances that shadowed Eleanor's decline. Here was someone who had chased the same dream, only to watch it slip away. Her heart raced not merely with nostalgia but a dawning understanding. Eleanor's return was more than unexpected, it signified an unearthing of unresolved tensions. Would this woman, who once wielded her brush like a sword against mediocrity, view Martha's work through a lens of envy and disappointment? The initial thrill of the gallery shifted into a fragile resolve. Martha swallowed again, but this time with conviction. The stakes weren't merely about her art or Alex's opening. They were about confronting the shadows of her past that had kept her from claiming her identity. "Stay here," she whispered to Alex, who was engulfed in greeting guests. The uncertainty in his eyes mirrored her own, but she pressed forward, hand trembling against the cool surface of the wall for support as she moved toward Eleanor, navigating through waves of chatter and laughter that seemed to amplify her racing thoughts. "Martha." Eleanor's voice sliced through her panic. "I didn't expect to see you here. Life has a way of intertwining our paths, doesn't it?" Martha replied, forcing a smile that felt foreign. The tension could have filled the air, and yet beneath that uncomfortable surface, a flicker of determination began igniting within her. Eleanor's smile faded slightly, vulnerability piercing her facade. "I see you haven't let the years dim your passion. Your grandson. I remember the talent he showed in childhood." "Indeed." There was a heavy pause. Martha recognized the need to confront the complexities of their shared past not as adversaries, but two women navigating the trials of creative existence. "And I'm embracing my voice again. I've taken to exhibiting my work tonight." "What a surprise," Eleanor mused, eyes narrowing ever so slightly. "You were always too talented to simply fade away." So there it was. A subtle jab veiled in faux admiration. Martha felt the urge to defend her choices, but instead, she considered a different approach. Maybe Eleanor's cynicism was rooted in her own insecurities, reverberating in this shared moment much like the echoes of Martha's doubts. "Art has never been about fading away for me," Martha said, meeting Eleanor's gaze. "It's about finding depth in experiences. Each piece I've created tells part of my story, not just to others but to myself." Eleanor's expression shifted, the threat of vulnerability growing more apparent. "But what if the audience doesn't see it? What if they make mockery of your truth, as they did with me? An unsettling familiarity washed over Martha, a realization of the fragility of artistic acceptance. She could feel the doubts rolling in, but she wanted to rise above them. Then it's on me to express that truth compellingly enough that they can't ignore it, she replied, it rising within her. As the repressed essence of her creativity flooded back, doubts converted into opportunities. A wave of clarity surged through her. I had forgotten that art is about taking risks. It's an act of defiance against the walls we construct. Eleanor's eyes softened, and for the first time, there was a trace of respect sparkling in their depths. And what if it breaks you instead? Then I will rebuild myself, piece by piece, Martha declared. Because that is what art is, a journey, not a destination. Nothing can truly shatter the spirit. Eleanor seemed to deflate slightly, perhaps recognizing herself in Martha's words, an acknowledgement that creativity couldn't be abandoned, only transformed. Just as Martha felt a flicker of triumph, she caught sight of Alex, his face alight with excitement and anticipation as he mingled with onlookers. The overwhelming anxiety of the gallery, the challenge of confronting past fears, now melded into a surge of energy that ignited not just her creativity but her spirit. Martha's heart raced, but it was no longer simply fear, it was the thrill of possibility. Tonight, I'm showing my truth, she said softly, eyes lingering on Eleanor. And perhaps you'll find a way to reclaim your own. As she turned back toward her grandson, feeling empowered, a new figure caught her eye, a critic she respected, known for uncovering deeper narratives behind art. The moment shifted, diverting her courage. Was she truly prepared to stand exposed once again, risking the judgment of discerning eyes? The pulsating energy of the gallery grew louder, echoing her escalating heartbeat. Her past and present collided, urging her toward an unyielding revelation. It was time to seem authentic, no matter the risk. What lay ahead, a moment of raw exposure or a transforming opportunity, was uncertain, but she would face it. The tension thrummed in the air, intertwining with the weight of her hopes. Was she ready to confront not just Eleanor, but the critic whose opinion could either revive or jeopardize her artistic journey altogether? As she took a step forward, old wounds and new challenges danced before her, waiting to be unveiled in the vibrant chaos of the gallery. Martha hesitated at the edge of the gallery, her mind racing with conflicting thoughts. The critic, known for his incisive reviews that often drew sharp lines between brilliance and mediocrity, was mingling with patrons, a glass of wine cradled in one hand. There was an electricity in the air, a tightening knot of expectation that urged her forward, yet she felt an ever-looming shadow of self-doubt creeping back in. With each step, Martha replayed Eleanor's words in her mind, what if they make mockery of your truth? The question ricocheted in the corridors of her consciousness, amplifying the weight of what lay ahead. She had come so far, yet the specter of old insecurities loomed large, whispering reminders of her hesitations. In that swirling sea of excitement and criticism, the essence of her past struggles tangled within her heart. Could she truly expose her soul through her art when the weight of judgment might crush her? A deep breath steadied her. No, this was solely about others' perceptions. It was a reclamation of her identity, an assertion of her narrative. She focused on the paintings displayed around her, each canvas a chapter of her journey, vivid and raw. Every stroke represented moments she had lived, emotions she had felt, triumphs and defeats captured in color. As the critic moved closer, she steadied herself, summoning the grit she had unearthed in her confrontation with Eleanor. Time to expose the truth, Martha, she whispered to herself, bracing against the wave of vulnerability that came with such a commitment. The past had its grip on her, but the present offered a fighting chance. Her gaze shifted back to Alex, laughter spilling from him as he shared a light-hearted story with some guests. His joy fortified her resolve. She couldn't let the shadows of her past color her performance tonight. She'd worked too hard, sacrificed too much, to let fear derail her mission. It was no longer just about artistry, it was about legacy. With renewed determination, she stepped forward into the throng, her heart pounding with each stride. The critic's discerning eyes swept over the pieces, pausing momentarily as he examined one of her canvases. It was a large portrait, infused with swirling colors that reflected tumultuous emotions and outward expression of her internal struggles and mounting hope. "Oh, the layers are compelling," he murmured. Martha felt her breath hitch, his words like a javelin of possibility aimed at the core of her vulnerability. Swallowing hard, she interrupted. "Each layer tells a story you might not see at first glance," she said, her voice catching his attention. "That's the point. It's about peeling back the layers to discover the truth beneath." Skepticism flickered in his expression, and while she felt a shudder of doubt, she pushed against it. This was a moment not merely to showcase her work but to communicate, to connect. I've learned that exposure isn't simply about revealing oneself, it's about inviting others to uncover their own truths through our shared experiences. My art is a dialogue, a reflection. The critic regarded her, a hint of surprise sparking in his gaze. So, you're saying you expect the audience to engage in this dialogue with you? The edge of his query was sharp, yet an undercurrent of curiosity flowed through it. Yes, she replied, her confidence blossoming like the vibrant paint on her canvases. Art isn't one-sided. It's an exploration of humanity, crafted with honesty. I refuse to hide behind fear anymore. Her words hung in the air, charged with a tangible intensity and a growing sense of solidarity with the other patrons who had gathered around, drawn by her impassioned declaration. She saw Eleanor lingering nearby, the conflict in her gaze replaced by a flicker of something akin to admiration. Martha realized then, this was no simple art exhibit, it was an awakening. Every brushstroke signified her journey through doubt and redemption, and here she was, poised to share not just her work but a piece of herself with the world. As the critic contemplated her words, she braced herself for the inevitable moment of judgment, feeling change ripple through her. She would not shield herself from his scrutiny, she was ready to confront whatever lay ahead, but just then, a commotion drew her attention. A sharp gasp echoed across the gallery. A woman standing at the edge of the room seemed to be clutching a painting, her face pale with recognition. Did she know something Martha didn't? Sudden apprehension gripped Martha, uncertain if this new revelation would fracture her burgeoning confidence or propel her towards further empowerment. What secret awaited revelation in this moment, and how might it entwine with her journey of authenticity? She turned her gaze back to the critic, who now appeared more intrigued than critical, a perception shift igniting the atmosphere. The unexpected drama of the evening unfolded, alive with potential and anxiety. Could this be an opportunity for even deeper connections, or would it turn into another blow to her artistic ambitions? Martha inhaled sharply, ready to confront this new unfolding narrative. Would it lead her deeper into her truth or threaten her hard-won progress? Martha felt a tremor of uncertainty coursing through her as she observed the mystery woman gripping a painting, her knuckles white against the canvas. A light seemed to flicker in the critic's eyes, pushing away the surface skepticism, igniting curiosity. This was the moment where misconceptions could either be shattered or reinforced. She wove through the crowd, drawn toward the scene that had captivated everyone's gaze. Was it the vivid colors of her work that had triggered such a reaction, or was there a deeper connection that she had yet to understand? The gallery buzzed with whispers, patrons darting glances toward Martha, then back to the woman who appeared both stunned and bewildered. Martha. Alex's voice broke through the thick atmosphere, laced with concern. What is happening? He stood firm by her side, a comforting presence amidst the rising tide of tension. Not sure, she murmured, eyes glued to the woman. What might she reveal? Was it admiration, disbelief, or something else entirely that marked her expression? Each heartbeat drummed louder in Martha's ears, her newfound courage flickering temporarily, challenged by the unknown. As she approached, she caught fragments of the woman's muffled words. I can't believe it, this is her, she whispered to another guest. I thought I lost this piece forever. Martha's heart sank momentarily, a unique mixture of anticipation and dread churning within her. What secrets did this canvas harbor? It felt like an echo from her past, a specter highlighting everything she had fought to escape. Finally close enough to hear clearly, she cleared her throat to break the tension. Can I help you? The woman turned sharply, revealing the glimmer of recognition in her eyes, drowned beneath layers of disbelief and shock. It's you. You created this piece. I thought it was lost. Martha's mind raced. You know this piece? Yes, the woman's voice quaked, emotion swelling within her. It had belonged to my late mother. She treasured this painting. I didn't think I'd ever see it again. Suddenly, the narrative of the moment shifted. It was merely unveiling her art. The painting had become a bridge, entwining the threads of her past and present, personal storylines converging in unexpected ways. This could be the catalyst for a deeper dialogue. I'm honored to hear that, Martha responded, her voice steadier than she felt inside. It's a reflection of struggle, hope, and the stories we often carry. Your mother must have been extraordinary. Tears glimmered in the woman's eyes as she whispered, she was. I still feel her presence within those strokes, her spirit reflecting through every layer. You captured her essence. Martha gasped, realization hitting her like a wave of inspiration combined with vulnerability. This was more than an exhibition, it was a connection, a testament to the impact of art, and the unforeseen ways it could resonate. For once, her fear of judgment began to lift, replaced by a growing understanding of her artistic purpose. Behind her, the critic observed intently, now caught up in the emotional dialogue that unfolded. He seemed less like a potential adversary, more like a witness to a profound moment of human experience. The energy shifted, creating a kaleidoscope of narratives all stemming from a single canvas. Art invites us to remember, she added, looking into the woman's star-glazed eyes. It pulls at our heartstrings, revealing the stories we too often hide. The soft note from the woman spoke volumes, strengthening Martha's resolve, invigorating her voice. This was the moment to embrace her truth, to understand that vulnerability had power to connect, to heal, and to inspire. As the crowd continued to close in, a newfound alliance formed amongst them. She could see the emotional threads weaving tighter, curiosity blooming from all corners of the gallery in their shared witness to this revelation. It dawned upon Martha that her journey had only begun, her past and present colliding into a rich tapestry of potential. But before she could relish this breakthrough, the critic interrupted, his gaze piercing. It seems there is a depth to your work that is far more resonant than I initially perceived. Perhaps you could elaborate on the themes embedded within your art. Martha took a breath, sensing the tides of opportunity rising around her. This was a chance to not only reclaim her narrative but to assert her place as an artist who embraced the raw complexities of life. She could feel her past fading, replaced by the intensity of potential and ambition. Stepping forward, she prepared to articulate her thoughts, each word a connection to her awakening, her purpose. But just then, the gallery doors swung open dramatically, revealing a newcomer that made every eye turn in disbelief. Who was it, and how would this new development reshape the path she envisaged? As curiosity electrified the atmosphere, a frisson of doubt flickered at the edges of her determination. Could this be another foreshadowing of turmoil, or would it push her further into the light she was finally beginning to embrace? Martha's heart raced as the gallery door swung open, revealing a frail figure silhouetted against the stark white of the evening light. A collective hush descended, anticipation wrapping the room like a shroud. The newcomer stepped in, her hair a cascade of silver, her posture straight as though she had traversed years of wisdom etched in each crease of her skin. Somehow, Martha recognized that this woman carried a weight of experience that could bring clarity, or perhaps chaos, to the moment. The critic, seemingly forgetting his previous inquiry, leaned toward his companions, discussing with urgency as whispers rippled through the crowd. Martha felt the pulse of intrigue quicken all around her, yet her focus remained on the elderly woman. What stories danced in her mind? What truths lay hidden beneath the surface of her knowing gaze? Martha fought against a surge of anxiety. In that instant, she could feel the eyes of the gallery upon her, each one a mix of expectation and judgment. Earlier, she had felt a fragile thread connecting her to her past. Now it seemed to shimmer with potential, and the presence of this woman threatened to either unravel or strengthen it. "Excuse me," the elderly woman called, a voice raspy yet resolute. "Is there a Martha here?" Her searching gaze landed on Martha, and there was an unmistakable spark of recognition. Martha stepped forward, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes, I'm Martha." "Good," the woman replied, her grip tightening on the cane that anchored her. "I'm Helen. I believe we should talk." The art of the moment flared dangerously close to a crossroads. The crowd parted, and a bubble of silence enveloped them. "What do you want to discuss?" Martha asked, half wondering if the woman held the answers she had yet to articulate. "It's about the painting. Your work isn't just art, it's a lineage, a record of context that deserves to be understood." Martha found herself swallowing hard. "You know about the painting?" "I knew your mother," Helen stated, her voice now steadier. "She once asked me to help her find a path with her art. Said she saw something greater in you than even she could comprehend." A chill skidded down Martha's spine. Her mother had never spoken about her aspirations in such unequivocal terms. "What does this mean?" she pressed, her heart thudding against the confines of her chest. Helen's eyes softened, allowing a window into the shadows of her own past. "It means you have a chance to step into the shoes that once belonged to both of you. The world needs to hear your voice. Don't let fear shackle you." Martha felt the weight of Helen's words crash over her like a wave. It echoed her earlier revelations, which had blossomed over the course of the evening like an unfurling flower. Could this be the moment that thrust her forward, beyond just recognition, into legacy? but with such potential loomed a deeper fear: could she truly embrace this concept of connection without dislodging her own identity in the process? Wasn't this the very struggle she had faced before, the hesitation that had kept her locked away in self-doubt? Helen continued, her tone softening. Every stroke you paint is a choice. Choose to turn your fear into strength. People are ready to listen. Are you prepared to speak? The question hung heavily between them. Martha stood at the precipice of a decision that may redefine the scope of her journey as an artist, shifting her identity from daughter of an artist into an artist in her own right. There is something powerful brewing in your heart, Martha, Helen encouraged. Don't let this opportunity slip. The world isn't waiting for perfection, they're eager for authenticity. As Martha closed her eyes, inhaling deeply, the tension she felt prickled against her skin. It was no longer just about her art, it was about her voice, her truth, a collective honesty she could share with the world. But the dilemma loomed large: what if vulnerability led to more pain? With breath held, she finally opened her eyes to meet Helen's unwavering gaze, ready to either step forward or retreat into the shadows once more. Just then, a journalist from the back of the gallery stepped forward, camera in hand. Can we get an interview, Martha? There is something electric about what is happening here. As excitement thundered in the atmosphere, the choice crystallized before her. This was her moment, but the question lingered: was she truly ready to reshape her narrative and face the world, armed only with her vulnerability and a canvas? Before she could respond, the journalist's flashing camera caught her in a stilled moment of clarity. In that split second, Martha realized she stood on the brink of change, surrounded by expectation, and the fear that once contained her began to dissolve. But as she opened her mouth to speak, another figure stepped into the spotlight, once again shifting the focus of the gallery. Would this new interruption rally support for her emerging voice, or would it drown out her hard-won connection to her art? Martha's thoughts raced as the new figure took center stage, a man with an imposing presence. He strode toward her with an air of authority that instantly reshaped the gallery's atmosphere. The glint of his tailored suit contrasted sharply with the raw, organic vibe of her artwork. Whispers ricocheted through the audience, their attention shifting, as easily captivated by this new arrival as they had been by Helen's whispered wisdom. Is it true? The man demanded, eyes sharp as arrows. Are you really planning to speak tonight? Invite scrutiny and speculation. You know what that could mean for your career, don't you? It could ruin you before you even get started. He punctuated his warning with the kind of skepticism that cuts deep. Martha took a half step back, startled not just by his words but by the underlying contempt behind them. Did he really care about her career, or was this just a ploy, a display of dominance over her fragile sense of authority? The collective murmurs drummed insistently in her ears, a dire reminder that fear and doubt thrived just below the surface of her resolve. What is your name? She managed to ask, forcing her voice to steady amid the inner whirlwind. Thomas Kinsey, he said, almost smugly. I've made a career out of discovering art that sells, Mississippi art that doesn't lean too heavily on personal tragedy or emotional vulnerability. If you choose authenticity, you may alienate potential buyers. They want fantasy, not reality. Yet, as he spoke, she felt that old familiar weight tethered to her mother's legacy, the shared clarity Helen had offered. Martha drew a deep breath, feeling those words echo, turn your fear into strength. Could she allow Thomas's doubts to derail her budding willingness to emerge on her own terms? I'm not looking to sell tragedy, Martha replied, newfound firmness lacing her voice. I'm looking to express truth. My art is a reflection of my experiences, and those experiences matter. A ripple of energy surged through the onlookers. Helen's eyes twinkled with pride, while the journalist adjusted his lens, poised to capture the moment. This was her chance to reclaim the narrative. Art is not merely commercial, she continued, her heart pounding with her conviction. It's a dialogue between the artist and the audience. If I don't speak, doesn't that render my work mute? Thomas's expression faltered for a fraction of a second, an imperceptible crack in his facade. But instead of conceding, he leaned in, and if your audience doesn't resonate with your voice, you'll find yourself alone, with only your fears as company. Trust me, I know. Then let me be alone, she asserted, clarity sharpening in her mind like a blade. I can accept solitude, but I can't accept remaining silent. I owe it to myself and to my mother. Feeling a swell of resolve, she turned to Helen, searching her eyes. Those familiar depths seemed to glow with an approving warmth. Will you stand with me? Martha asked, the weight of her plea infused with both fear and hope. Helen nodded, her presence a steadfast anchor against the tide of uncertainty. Martha shifted her focus back to the audience, the energy shifting palpably as she gathered strength from their curiosity, their willingness to witness her journey. If you're eager to listen, then let me tell you about my art and what it truly signifies. These aren't just paintings, they're manifestations of love, loss, hope, and despair. As she spoke, her voice began to rise, weaving together the threads of her truths and emotions. The gallery buzzed with attention, and she could feel the shockwaves of doubt receding as her authenticity painted over the periphery of judgment. But as she passionately recounted her journey, Thomas interrupted again, his voice cutting like a knife through the air. This is just sentimental fluff, without commercial viability. Choose your next words wisely, Martha. You're on the brink of losing yourself. Her pulse raced. This was the moment to truly confront not just him but the ghosts of her own self-doubt. Could she transmute this conflict into a statement of her own existence without losing her way? Just as she prepared to take another step forward, another figure, this one familiar, hovered at the edge of her vision. A confrontation loomed, and with it, the possibility of an unexpected ally or adversary. Who would enter her personal narrative next, and how would this determination reshape her journey? Would she find support amidst the chaos or face the shadows lurking in her own fears? Martha's heart thrummed loudly as she steadied her gaze on the new figure, her breath caught in her throat. It was Susan, her former art mentor, who had once encouraged her during tumultuous times of self-doubt. The sight of Susan brought back memories, the late-night critiques over cups of coffee, the lessons on pushing past her comfort zone to embrace authenticity. However, tonight felt different. As Susan moved forward, the familiar glint of encouragement in her eyes was starkly overshadowed by the tension that surrounded Martha. Each step seemed to echo louder, reverberating with unmet expectations and unwelcome judgments. Martha, Susan began softly, though the crowd silence amplified her voice. I didn't expect to see you here, speaking so boldly. Neither did I, Susan, Martha replied, disbelief weaving through her own words. But I can't allow anyone to dictate how I express myself or what my art should represent. Susan's expression flickered a mix of pride and concern. You might think this is a show of strength, but be careful not to demolish bridges instead of building them. The caution in her voice felt like a warning bell, and Martha's defensiveness fled. Bridges? Susan, I'm not here to pander to anyone's comfort. This is my moment to reveal my truth, she responded, feeling the swell of her conviction rise again. The fear that had threatened to anchor her was now transformed into resolve. As she looked around the gallery, she sensed the stares, the judgment buried beneath their unfounded curiosity. Thomas Kinsey stood, arms crossed and brows raised, waiting for the impending drama. Martha squeezed her eyes shut momentarily, drawing strength from Helen's steady gaze. But it was Susan's raw, insightful critique that pierced through the turmoil, bringing forth a realization within Martha. This wasn't about mere confrontation, it was about finding a place in a landscape crowded with expectations. Familiar ghosts twisted in her mind, self-doubt, a fear of the unknown, and a knowing panic that perhaps Thomas was right. But the fear also held a mirror. Each flash of inhibition revealed the true nature of her art. Art is a path to connection, not isolation, Martha continued, her voice growing in clarity. It breathes life into shared experiences, and if I am crumbling under the pressures of commercialism, what is left for honesty? The gallery hummed with anticipation. Martha felt it shift around her like a tangible support. There was power in vulnerability, a sense of strength in expressing her insecurities. Clarity flooded her, reminding her of the importance of remaining steadfast in her beliefs even when faced with adversaries like Thomas. Martha, don't sacrifice your authenticity for the approval of an audience that may never get it, Susan urged, an unexpected empathy threading through her voice. You have a light, don't let it dim. Martha clenched her fists, channeling the emotion that brewed within. She felt the tide of change surging through her. Then let me embrace this uncertainty, she said defiantly. Every brushstroke and every word is an invitation to an audience to engage with their own complexities. I am no longer afraid of alienating those who can't recognize the power of my journey. Just as she prepared to dive deeper into her speech, Thomas stepped forward, his form eclipsing her growing confidence. You're playing with fire, and it's only a matter of time until you burn, he challenged, his voice a sugary poison. The crowd shifted, eyes darting between Martha and Thomas, tension charging the air. I refuse to let you define the flames of my passion, she responded, fueled by a newfound determination. But with Susan lingering, Martha couldn't shake the nagging uncertainty that crept in. Was this really about self-expression or about proving something to her peers? As she gathered her breath, determined to explore the conflict between fear and freedom, she noticed a flicker of movement behind Thomas, a creased envelope sliding into his grasp. This moment had changed everything for her, and yet, the atmosphere hung heavy with uncertainty. What unexpected consequence lurked within those envelopes? Would she unleash her true self or retreat under the weight of commercial expectations? The challenge ahead was now unmistakably clear. Martha stood in the gallery, resolute beneath the scrutiny of eyes filled with judgment and intrigue. Thomas Kinsey's allegations burned in the air, each accusation striking like a bell tolling doom. Yet, the realization washed over her that true mastery of art resided not in evading scrutiny but in embracing it. She was no longer just an artist, she had transformed into a warrior of her narrative. Clenching her fists, she felt her heart racing. "You think I will crumble?" she challenged boldly, the edges of her words sharpened with newfound strength. "You see me as fragile, clinging to my past, but I now hold my truth tightly, not like a relic but as a torch illuminating the path forward." Determination coursed through her veins, propelling her to confront every challenge unfurling before her. The audience's gaze shifted, curiosity simmered with anticipation. Even Helen's presence anchored her deepened conviction. "The experience of art is not defined by the safety of superficiality," she continued, her voice rising above the din of doubt. "Art is a dialogue, an invitation demanding engagement. Each story I share resonates with its own challenges and triumphs," she proclaimed, her words now imbued with urgency and clarity born of vulnerability. Martha took a step closer to Thomas, as if the space between them crackled with visible tension. "I refuse to be another nameless artist in the crowd. I owe it to myself and to my mother to speak boldly and to carve my identity through the medium of emotional truth." The corner of Thomas's mouth twitched, half surprised, half conceited. "You may win over a few sympathy votes tonight, but when the buzz fades, reality will still exist. You must consider the market." Martha's perspective shifted, realizing just how far she had come from the uncertainty that once dominated her thoughts. "You misunderstand. My art is not a vehicle for commerce, it is a bridge for connection. I will not diminish my voice simply to appease an artificial market." The crowd's energy felt like a swirling current, shifting toward her as she embraced her truth, her passion pulsing with intensity. Susan nodded, pride igniting in her eyes. The tension in the room seemed almost palpable, a strand woven through the fabric of shared experience, anticipation tangling the audience tighter as Martha forged ahead. She turned to the familiar faces around her in the gallery. "My past isn't a burden but a source of strength. I've walked through darkness, and from that journey, I draw color and light." Her gaze found Eleanor, who reciprocated the admiration with a knowing nod. Art reflects life, portraying not only beauty but also struggle and the emergence of resilience. As the sentiment hung in the air, a wave of recognition swept through the crowd, whispering connections forged through their own vulnerabilities. Martha felt an undeniable bond knitting together strangers, her authentic voice weaving a tapestry interlaced with everyone's story. For the first time, uncertainty fell away, revealing a vibrant momentum that threatened to break barriers. Propelled by the crowd's response, she added, "The world may question my narrative, but tonight, I stand unbowed. I choose truth over confinement. Every stroke represents the heartbeats of those who came before me and those who will follow. Every moment matters." Just as the room erupted in applause, a sleek envelope dropped from Thomas's hand, fluttering to the ground. The unexpected movement forced silence across the space, every head turning. He glanced around, masking discomfort with a facade of control. "Consider this a hasty folly," he retorted, but his bravado felt hollow now. "I want to be an emotional sales pitch," Martha insisted, her voice steady. "Art that resonates is rooted in authenticity, not in commercial viability." The ripple of realization swept through the crowd once again. They were witnesses not merely to an exhibition but to a powerful affirmation of identity. Then, as Martha regained her composure, her expression softened. "Dear Thomas," she said, "there is profound strength in vulnerability. The legacy I strive to build won't be diminished by your opinion. I honor my past and own my future together, they are powerful." With a final, defiant gaze from Martha, the atmosphere began to shift. A subtle acknowledgement coursed through the room, a realization that this was not merely about art but about the very essence of living a truth unafraid of judgment. Here was a woman, once shadowed by doubt, now standing firm in her journey, having conquered her fears and unearthing the strength that lay dormant within her all along. As applause washed over her, Martha felt exhilaration pulsate through her. The critic's earlier doubt began to dissolve, replaced by respect in the wake of her authenticity. There, amid the gallery, she had not only conquered her own insecurities but had firmly established her position as a creator within the fabric of the artistic community. The journey had brought her to this moment, a radiant revelation, a wife, a mother, a daughter, and finally an artist who stood fulfilled. With each breath, she cultivated a reality anchored in her identity, ready to share her next story. But first, she had an important message to convey. Now is the time to seize your own truth. Do not miss the opportunity to explore your passions, to share your unique story with the world. You need to subscribe now to the channel, to be part of a community that values authenticity and vulnerability. Martha couldn't help but smile. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and ensure more stories of emotional journeys reach those who need encouragement. Your voice matters, and your support drives our shared mission. Comment below with your reactions, your theories, your own stories of overcoming doubt. And please, share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to witness a story of true transformation. This is the moment to show your support, so don't wait even one more second. Let's embrace our truths together.